everybody, talking today about software bugs and companies, organizations not patching their systems and doing what they need to do. And Danny, I feel like we, like a broken record, talking about this all of the time, but unfortunately, companies still are falling victim here to crime.
They're still falling victim, and a lot of companies are still not applying the patches to devices and software which could help protect them from these attacks. A recent research by Bitdefender found that of unpatched vulnerabilities, 2/3 of them are over 2 years old, which means that when companies are not applying these security updates, they haven't applied them for 2 years. So there's updates that have been released in 2018 which haven't been applied. As you go further back, there's fewer and fewer updates which haven't been applied, but there's even updates back to 2002 which have not been applied. I mean, these are very, very small amounts of numbers for what's old software now, but there's vulnerabilities out there which have been vulnerable for 18 years, which is really strange. And this sort of thing is just a field day to cyber criminals, because it is one of the simplest things you can do to help protect your networks from attacks by applying these updates. But still, a lot of organizations aren't doing this for various reasons.
And when you talk about, Danny, some of well, it's hard to believe, first of all, we're talking about some dating back to 2002. As you mentioned, that's really hard to believe. But talk about some of the attacks that can happen and the type of vulnerabilities that these companies are opening themselves up to.
Well, in many cases, the vulnerabilities have been discovered already and have been patched by the likes of Mozilla and Microsoft, which were some of the companies which attackers are taking advantage of vulnerabilities the most. So say, for example, in Microsoft products, there's sometimes things where attackers can find they can do something by using a certain type of code to remotely control a system, for example. If you've applied the patch, you're good. Microsoft know about this vulnerability, hence they've applied the update. Well, if you haven't applied it, you are still potentially vulnerable to this attack, which could be used for all manner of things. Phishing, malware, ransomware are all potential things which can happen in these instances just because the patch hasn't been applied. And in some cases, it's understandable, because if you're the IT or security department of a massive global conglomerate, you're going to have trouble applying security updates across thousands, tens of thousands of PCs. And there are some organizations where there's not really any downtime to apply these updates, which can leave them vulnerable. Take, for example, this is quite a famous example now, hospitals. You can't really be taking a hospital network offline in order to apply security patches. We saw this as a major problem a few years ago when WannaCry ransomware happened, and here in the UK, the National Health Service was a significant victim of that. Now, the Eternal Blue, the vulnerability behind WannaCry, had already been discovered, and Microsoft had issued a patch against it in March of that year. The attack happened in May, so by that time, basically any organization that had fell victim to WannaCry had not applied this patch, which was released as an essential patch. Ultimately, Microsoft saying you really must apply this to your system. The interesting thing is, that was 3 years ago now, and that Eternal Blue is still a vulnerability that is very commonly used in cyber attacks, because there's still a significant amount of organizations out there which, despite the publicity of WannaCry, despite the publicity of NotPetya, despite how it is a leaked, ultimately NSA hacking tool, which can get full control of your network basically, and move itself to other computers around the system, there are organizations out there who still have not applied this patch, which means they're basically leaving an open door to cyber criminals in this way, which is not a good thing, because it is one of the simplest things you can do to help protect yourself from cyber attacks. So it must be just it's easy pickings for cyber criminals.
Yeah, most definitely. You just can't leave that door open, especially like you said, when it's a pretty simple fix and something that's right there that you know that you need to take care of. All right, Danny. Well, much more, of course, on cybersecurity and what folks need to do and patching their systems and all of that good stuff on ZDNet. And we hope all of you were checking out there. And we appreciate you watching us here today.